Thank you. I see that. Welcome, everyone. As I've said, we are recording this session, so I just wanted to get that out there up front. Again, my name is Ryan O'Donnell. I lead the IT and Business Solutions team here at INTA. I'm going to be helping to moderate this town hall. This is, I think, the largest of the town halls that we've had to date. So we welcome our committee leadership chairs, vice chairs, subcommittee chairs, as we talk with our CEO, Etienne Sanz de Acedo, about this upcoming annual leadership virtual meeting that we're going to be having in November. We're excited for what's to come. We're excited to give you guys a bit of an inside look and answer some of your questions for this very necessary and important event for the INTA community. It's obviously going to be a little bit different, unique, very special this year, and we want to start to talk to you all about what to expect from that meeting. So with that, again, thank you for joining. Just the ground rules of this call. I see a lot of people on the call still joining. We are going to allow Etienne to give us a little overview first, then we're going to start opening it up to really a town hall Q&A. Because there's so many people on the call, it would be helpful if you were to submit your questions via the chat function. You'll see Amanda Mangione, who is the host of this call. She's waving there too. Feel free to send your questions directly to Amanda. She'll feed them to me for me to then feed to Etienne. But no worries, if you broadcast it to everyone, I'm also going to be keeping an eye on all of those things. So feed those questions in. I think Etienne's going to cover a couple points right out of the gate that may help answer some of those initial questions. So without further ado, if I could pass it over to Etienne, if you wouldn't mind doing your opening remarks, share your screen, and we can start the discussion here.
Thank you very much, Ryan, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everyone. What a great masters of ceremonies is Ryan. I mean, he has, potentially another job if he wants to do that. Listen, first of all, thanks a lot for joining. It's really a pleasure to see so many familiar faces, so many friends, and more importantly, so many active members within INTA. Many of you have perhaps already seen what we're going to be sharing with you, but this is a great opportunity for you to ask as many questions as you want, and also for us to get a lot of, great insights from you. So without further ado, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna, cross fingers, I'm going to share my screen so that I'm going to be able to take you through what the annual and leadership meeting environment might look like. This, by the way, is information that is already available on our website, and I hope you've noticed that we've completely revamped our website. That was part of our digital transformation. So phase one of the website, you saw a new kind of, format for the bulletin as well. The information is there, but I really want to take you through the annual and leadership meeting. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. And could I get Amanda, Ryan, a kind of thumbs up? Can you see that? Okay,
thumbs up.
All right, perfect. So let's go into that. So basically, this is the environment you will find when you get into the annual and leadership meeting. This, of course, is a mock-up. The final version might be a little different, but in terms of the main features, you'll get this. So basically, you will get into a lobby. You'll be able to access sessions, networking, there'll be hospitality suites, and there's going to be a space for partners. And as you can see on the top side of the screen, you'll be able to edit your profile, and you'll have a help desk function in case you need that. So let's imagine we move into sessions. So when you go into sessions, you're going to be able to search content per day and per track. This is something new, in the sense that we're creating tracks to provide guidance to the members in terms of what might be relevant to you. So let me give you a few examples. There are going to be up to 12 different tracks. We're going to have one about brands around the world. We'll talk about filing and prosecution. There's going to be one on anti-counterfeiting and enforcement. There's going to be one on how to manage your brands in times of crisis in general. There's going to be one on how to advance your professional career. We might be talking a little about soft skills. There's going to be one on diversity and inclusion. There's going to be a specific track for our Chinese audience in Mandarin in China time. There's going to be an Asia track in the Asia time zone. There's going to be a track on related rights, just to give you an idea of the kind of tracks we're going to have. And of course, we're going to have sessions live. We're going to have breakout sessions. And absolutely all the content is going to be available on demand, which basically means that if you don't have time to be at a live session, You're going to be able to digest the content anytime. That's going to be available the time of the annual meeting, but even after that, at least up to the end of the year, if not more. So let me perhaps take you through one of those sessions. Let's imagine that we go into a live session or a breakout session. This is basically what you'll get. You'll be in a kind of theater. You'll have a main screen with the presentation. You'll have the faces of the speakers, and there's going to be a chat function. And of course, you know, on both sides, there might be sponsorship opportunities for our members. Now, we know that education is extremely important. We're planning to have at least 30 hours of CLE education. We're going to have all kinds of workshops. There's going to be the in-house committee workshop, the anti-counterfeiting workshop, the trademark administrators workshop, IP officers workshop, women leadership initiative workshop. There's going to be plenty of that. But you know, in addition to that, we're developing networking opportunities because we know that for the members, for a large majority of the members, networking at annual and leadership meeting is at least as important as education. So this is what we're doing in terms of networking. Table topics, we're positioning them slightly differently. So we're going to have 170 plus table topics on, let's say, legal issues. And on top of that, we're going to have up to 50 table topics that are going to be moderated by corporate members. So basically, you'll have a corporate member bringing to the table a topic of his or her interest to the individual or to the company. We'll present the topic, and then we'll open the floor for discussion in small groups of 10, 12 people. On top of that, we're going to continue having speed networking as we've done in past annual meetings. We've done that virtually over the past 3 months with great success, and we'll continue offering that. Something new we're going to have is a one-to-one AI-empowered matchmaking app. So basically, when you get into your profile, you'll sign in for that if you want. You will define your preferences, and the app will match you with people who have similar preferences or similar areas of interest. And from there, you'll be able to engage with them by mail first. And if you want to go further and have a face-to-face meeting, you'll be able to do that. And last but not least, there's going to be plenty of social networking opportunities classified under experiences, meetups, wellness, sports, tastings, etc. Now, if we move into the next area, this is the hospitality suite area. And the hospitality suite area is intended to be a secured environment where corporations will take their large meetings with external counsels. And on top of that, there will be the possibility for meetings, you know, between associates. Now, over the past couple of weeks, we've been organizing town halls. We had one-on-one sessions with corporate members. I was myself probably on 50 one-on-one calls with corporations. The response we got is massively positive in terms of participation to the meeting, but also in terms of organizing meetings with external counsels within the platform. Again, this is going to be in a very secured environment. So basically, let's imagine I'm an external counsel. I'm going to get into this section, and I'm going to pretend to access a meeting of a corporation. If I have not been invited to that meeting, despite clicking on that meeting, I will not be able to enter, just to give you an idea of how that's going to work. And last but not least, you know, some of you are on top of being very active, you know, members, your partners in the sense of, you know, being at the exhibition hall or sponsoring the event. There's going to be a specific space for you. So let me perhaps take you into the virtual exhibition hall. This would be, for example, you know, let's say the silver pavilion. So here we would have our silver exhibitors, and I would like to click on this one. So basically I would click here and I would get into a virtual booth where I would find the logo of the company and I would be able to get directly into the website. I would have a main screen with what the company wants to promote. And then I would have an opportunity to see their services, their team participating at the meeting. I would be able to make appointments, and more importantly, I would be able to take video meetings. This same concept of a virtual booth would apply for the law firms for, you know, the virtual hospitality areas. Remember what I told you before about, you know, hospitality area, those would be the kind of hospitality suites. So that's basically, and I'm going to perhaps stop sharing my screen now. This is basically how the environment will look like. Now, in terms of the meeting itself, it's going to be over 2 weeks. It's going to be November 16th to 20th, as far as live content is going to happen. And the week before, we're going to have the meetings between corporations and their external counsels. We're going to have the committee meetings, and we're going to have the leadership day, which is going to be on November 13th. So that basically means that really the platform is going to be live for 2 entire weeks. And I'm going to perhaps pause here, just, you know, one final comment. Registration will be opening for corporate members on July 6th and for the associate members on July 13th. We've put together a set of packages to somehow, you know, further support companies and firms. In the case of corporations, every 3 paid registrants, you will get 1 free registration. And for the associates, every 5 paid registrations, you will get 1 free registration. The idea behind that is to support, you know, companies and firms, and also allow you to perhaps bring to the meeting people who might not normally be able to attend, either young practitioners or paralegals, just to name a few. And very final comment, there's going to be an early bird registration taking place up to August 21st. The idea of that early bird registration is to provide you access to, you know, some meetings that might be limited in attendance. For example, we're going to have a town hall with the director of the USPTO. We cannot have 1,000 people participating and asking questions to Andrei Iancu. We'll have to limit that to perhaps the first 100, 150, or 200 attendees, just to give an example. But there is also another advantage, which is we know how early bird is normally tied to access to hotels. Of course, we do not have hotel offerings this year, but what we're doing is that the first 1,500 registrants will get preferential access to hotels in 2021 in San Diego. Ryan, I would perhaps pause here because I think there is already a lot of information out there, and let's perhaps, you know, start taking questions. Is that fine?
Sure. Thank you, Etienne, for that overview. Again, for those of you that joined as we started here, we're using the chat function given the number of folks on the call, so feel free to send your chats to Amanda Mangione, who is the host of this call. She'll be feeding them to me, and I'll feed them to Etienne. Of course, if you broadcast it to the whole group, I'll try and keep up. But Etienne, I want to start with one question. I think given the audience that we have here, our committee leaders, chairs, vice chairs, and subcommittee members, let me ask you this. If I was one of those people and I chose not to attend this meeting, or committee members on my team chose not to attend the meeting, can I still go to at least my committee meeting as the chair, vice chair, or committee member at large? Can I attend at least my committee meeting as part of that?
Well, that's a great question, Ryan, that we've already received quite a few times. And the answer is a simple one, which is no. And there is a good reason for that. You know, we've never done that in the past. You know, in order to be able to attend committee meetings, both at annual and leadership meetings, there's always been the expectation that the members would register for those meetings. And this is a rule that we're not changing. And I would perhaps even go further. When you sign for, you know, a committee, and particularly when you're in a leadership position, there is the expectation that you will be able to attend that meeting, whether it's annual or leadership meeting. That has remained unchanged, and we will keep that rule. And frankly, if we were to change that, we would be opening the door to, you know, many exceptions, and we need to keep it simple so that, you know, we treat everyone the same.
Super, thank you for clarifying that. Another question I want to ask, and again, I think unique to the group we have on, our committee volunteers, is talk to us a little bit more about the leadership meeting side of that. Obviously, this group would be the folks that would be eligible for that portion of it. So what does a leadership meeting portion of the meeting look like? What does the programming look like? What will be available to those participants?
Yes, absolutely. So the leadership meeting part of, you know, the entire experience will take place on November 13th, which is a Friday. We're still building this program, to be very honest, but it's going to have really the flavor of a leadership meeting. So we'll have the leadership lab sessions, we'll have some inspirational speakers. So it will really replicate the concept of a leadership meeting, except that we are making that happen in kind of a day. And if I may, please bear in mind that, you know, we're going at 1,000 miles per hour. You know, this is the 4th annual meeting we're building in 1 year. And things are changing almost on a daily basis. You know, as you can see from our faces, you know, we're working literally night and day to put things together. And this is why, you know, our program is evolving every day and you'll see changes happening. So now we've been building the live program for annual meeting, and I'll be able to show that to you in a minute. We're now working on the on-demand program for the annual meeting part of the meeting, and then we'll be working on the leadership meeting part with the leadership meeting project team.
Great, thanks. So looking through some of the other questions here, you know, we touched a little bit on this question with regards to the corporate and associate, you know, buy 3, get 1 free, buy 5, get 1 free. But we're seeing that some corporate members on my committee, as the question has been asked, that maybe due to budget, it could still be very challenging. Hi. Could be challenging to get registration. So obviously, as Amanda, if you could just help me out with mute a line there. If you could give the committee leaders on this call a little ammunition of how to help them, you know, encourage or justify the cost of this meeting when we obviously all deal with budget limitations. I mean, obviously that corporate and associate discount helps, but any other nuggets of information you can help as they can help trickle that down and encourage their committee members to register.
Absolutely. So let me perhaps provide you some background in terms of, you know, the pricing of the meeting. This is not something that we decided alone without consulting. In order to, you know, prepare the entire offering, we did survey our corporate members. We did have consultation with our associate members. We had several brainstorming sessions, and the recommendation we got was that probably a fair price for this year would be a 30% discount compared to last year's annual meeting. And in fact, if you look at our pricing, you know, the price of annual meeting alone is 32% less than annual meeting in Boston. And if you combine annual and leadership meeting, the price is 62% less than last year's annual and leadership meeting. But on top of that, you know, what we've created this year is a flat rate, which is $750 as early bird, $850 as regular. If you look at that price, considering that the platform is going to be open for 10 days, so 2 weeks, the 9th to the 13th and the 16th to the 20th, that means that the price is $75 per day. And on top of that, last year you would have to pay for table topics, you would have to pay for workshops. This year, all that is included. So we feel that, you know, from a pricing perspective, this is very affordable. The other advantage to consider is that, and you know that, you know, when you're traveling, you know, particularly those of you who are traveling from abroad, let's take, you know, I remember, you know, one member of the board was mentioning to us, you know, he normally comes from Asia. So coming to a meeting in the US between travel, accommodation, registration, and all kind of meals might mean from, you know, 8,000 to 12,000 US dollars. Here we're talking about 750. And those 750 means that you'll have access to all the educational content, which quite often you cannot really benefit during an in-person meeting because you're in meetings, you're in sessions, you're in networking. This time, all that content is going to be available and accessible to you.
Great, thanks. So next question or set of questions, I kind of want to loop into one. Just simple logistics and calendarization of things. You know, when should I register for the meeting by? When will registration close? And just broadly speaking, how long is this whole event taking place? Over how many days?
Many questions at the same time, which is absolutely great. Am I muted at the moment, or I'm
You're
fine?
good. You're
okay,
good.
I'm good because I got a message that I was being muted. do you mind repeating the question, because I got distracted by
Certainly,
that
certainly.
message?
So when should Etienne, when should I
Yeah,
register for
yeah,
this
that's
meeting
fine.
by?
You just reminded
When
me to.
when does
Correct.
registration close? And then how long is the whole event? All
Okay,
things
cool. So as I said, before closing, we open things. So your registration is opening, July 6th for the corporates, July 13th for the associates. Registration early bird will be until August 21st. And we're planning to close registration probably by October 30th. And there is a good reason for that. And it is the fact that, we need then to transfer all the data into the platform so that you can access to the different, sessions, to the different activities, and we need to have some time to do that transfer. Now, in terms of, how long is the meeting gonna last? So the meeting, the platform is gonna be open live for 2 weeks, 9 to 13th, and then the live educational sessions and other things, 16th to the 20th. But on top of that, the platform is gonna remain open further in time so that everybody can take advantage of the sessions. Ryan, if you don't mind, I'm going to try to share my screen again. I have to go into my emails to find something, but we just got this morning, kind of 8 a.m., what is a tentative grid over those 2 weeks, and I would be more than happy to show that with the group. So you'll excuse the mess in my computer, but I'm going to try to show that to you. So let me go here. And there is nothing confidential in my mailbox, so don't worry about it. All right. So can you see that, or you might not be able to see it? You're seeing my mailbox. Okay, so we always have the same problem.
Stop share and reshare one more
stop
time.
sharing and I share again. I mean, I'm getting used to that by now. Okay, can you see it now? Thumbs up?
We're good. We're good.
We're good. Great. All right. So this is totally new from this morning, and it's something that we'll be updating on our website later today. And this is, again, it's a kind of, it's a tentative grid because there is still a lot of work that needs to happen into it. But as you can see, from November 9th to November 13th, the platform is already going to be live. And on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, we're going to have the corporate meetings with external counsels. These are, the preferred dates for those meetings. They can happen after, of course, but this is what we're, proposing for the large meetings. Committee meetings will be on the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and leadership meeting day will be on the 13th. Now, in terms of networking, you can already see what we're proposing, and there is still much more to come, and Peg can definitely talk about this. But we're gonna have speed networking every day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're gonna have some allocated time slots for corporate meetups, so for corporate members to meet together. And the table topics will be on Monday and Friday from 11 to 12, and the rest of the days, 11 to 12 and 6 to 7 p.m. This is for the first week. On the second week, here you can already see only the live sessions. So there is much more, which is the on-demand content. But as you can see, we have, full tracks Monday through Friday. And you're going to excuse me for a second. Alexia, necesito silencio. Papá está en una reunión, por favor. Mara, ayúdame con esto. We're going to have, and as you can see, I'm practicing my Spanish from time to time at home. As you can see, something that is slightly different, almost everything is based on US East daytime, except that both on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have a China track at Chinese time and an Asia track at Asia time. And if you look at the frame of the days, we're going to always start with a kind of longer session, a kind of, opening ceremony keynote on Monday, and then town halls the rest of the days. And then we're going to have a mix of concurrent sessions and shorter either capsule keynotes or one-to-one meetings. And on top of that, every day there's going to be a set of workshops. And as you can see as well, we're going to have several networking opportunities happening during those days. But as I said, this is just, the live sessions. there is more to come in terms of on-demand content, and more importantly, there is much more to come in terms of networking. And I'm going to perhaps stop sharing and coming back to this screen.
Sure, no problem. And we certainly appreciate Alexia's cameo there. Again, another question I want to ask, very unique to this group, being committee members and committee leaders, is I'm seeing quite a few of a similar question, is how are committee meetings going to work? Obviously, when we're on site, we have the luxury of a global organization now all existing in the same time zone. That's not going to be the case for committee meetings. That's not going to be the case for educational content and overall event experience. So could you talk a little bit about how we're going to make committee meetings work and how we're going to make the content of the meeting work to span all of these time zones and accommodate as many as we can?
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions. Well, I think, you've all been taking committee meetings already because, unfortunately, we've been into this pandemic for, 3 to 5 months. So I'm sure, committee meetings have already taken place. And what I would say, it's really a matter of common sense. You have to, define what is the best timing for the majority of your members. Yeah, Rudy, I can see you. You're facing the same we're facing on a daily basis, many of us. So it's common sense. It's, you'll have to pick what is the best time zone for the majority of your members. And then in terms of the meetings, we're taking most of those meetings on Zoom professional meeting, which has a capacity for up to 300 people. And like we're doing at this session, it's helpful to kind of moderate the session, to mute ourselves, and to perhaps, just, raise our hands when we want to speak. So far, it has been working well in terms of committee meetings. I had myself, the privilege to be at an advocacy group, at a resources group meeting, and I think that's working pretty well. So we can absolutely replicate that, during the dates of annual and leadership meeting.
Great. I want to pivot to a couple questions, broadly speaking, kind of the spaces that we offer, be it the corporate exclusive meeting space, exhibitor booths, hospitality areas. Got some questions about how that works, what we expect the environment to be like, and how we'll still get that opportunity to interact serendipitously, randomly, or scheduled meetings in those spaces. So if you could talk a little bit about what the plan is for those kind of meeting spaces, all different kinds.
All right, so there are several questions in that question. It's, the meetings between corporations and external counsels. It's, the ability for associates to have hospitality areas. And it's also, the virtual exhibition hall. So the virtual exhibition hall is going to be open daily. I don't remember the exact hours. Amanda or Peg, you might be able to help me on that. But, it's going to be, Amanda, please go ahead.
I believe it's between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Okay, so there you go. So, it's going to be, a significant amount of hours where it's going to be open, and, people will be able to just go there and visit the virtual exhibition hall. So that's one. Now, in terms of, the large meetings between, corporations and their external counsels, what we're trying to offer here is an environment where companies would be able to organize those meetings with the annual and leadership meeting registrants within the platform, like we've done in the past where, companies were taking space at the convention center. And that, again, can perfectly work through a Zoom, GoToMeeting, WebEx, or if you have your own preferred technology, we will be able to integrate that within the platform. And last but not least, those firms that might be interested in having a hospitality, like we have a hub at the annual meeting in the past, will be able to contact us and develop that kind of hospitality area. But I think, one of the most important things of the platform is that we're creating, or we're trying to develop as much flexibility as possible so that you can really decide how you're going to be managing your days. So you might want to go into a live session, or instead you might want to go into a networking session, or instead you might want to go into the virtual hall. I mean, it's really up to you. What we're trying to do as well is in terms of the live sessions, week 2, so 16th to the 20th, we're trying that those sessions will not last in total more than 4 to 4.5 hours, because we do understand that there is a fatigue spending our days, in front of the computer. You have additional work to take care of, and we all have families, or we're stuck at home, so it's not easy. And this is why, in terms of the live sessions, we're limiting our time. And again, even those live sessions are totally available on demand.
And since we're talking about the educational sessions, there was a question that came up, for those of us that require the CLE and CPD, will educational sessions offer that? Do we have to be there live? Even with a virtual event, it's still hard to be in two places at once. If you can't attend a session live, how long are we able to attend those sessions and get that CLE or CPD?
Absolutely. So there are going to be more than 30 hours of CLE CPD sessions. And those sessions will be available both live and on demand. And we're already talking to the vendor for some kind of, accreditation. So you'll be probably during the length of the session, you might get a couple of times, are you still here? So that, it can be, certified that you've attended, that full session so that you can get your CLE or CPD. So absolutely. Is it going to be available just live? No, it's going to be available both live and on demand, because those 30 hours might not be all live. There might be some that are live available as well on demand, but there might be some that go directly into on-demand content.
Super. So for all of us who have been to an annual meeting or many in the past, we know that networking is often king and just the social interactions. I expect we might stay on this topic for just a few minutes here with a few questions, but maybe we can just start it broadly, Etienne, is, what's the networking going to be like? What are we envisioning, and how can we replicate that or try to replicate that in this virtual space?
All right, so let me start with, something that is very clear. Nothing is going to replicate or reproduce exactly, giving a hug to someone or having a beer together. I mean, some of us are big beer fans and we always, meet at the bar. I see some of you smiling. That's not going to happen, okay? It's not going to happen in person. But by the way, we might be able to grab a beer together end of the day and do a social networking around a beer and have some fun. That's one. But on top of that, you're going to have the speed networking opportunity that is going to be available. You're going to be able to register for that. Then you're going to have the one-to-one AI-empowered matchmaking app that's going to work as well. And this is kind of replicating getting into an elevator and meeting someone, or being at the lobby and, starting to speak with someone. But in addition to that, this year, the table topics are being positioned in a different way. So we're asking, for the table topics, we're even asking our speakers, perhaps, reduce your speaking time to allow people to engage with each other more. And particularly on the corporate table topics, we're asking them to be moderators. We're asking them, pick your topic that is relevant to you or to your company, just introduce it for 3 to 5 minutes, and then open the floor for discussion. As I said, over the past couple of weeks, I personally took calls with 50 corporations, almost 50 of them. Some of them are attending this session, and I'm not going to point on, some of these individuals, but they said, very happy to moderate sessions and very happy to, use that format. And they saw this as a networking opportunity, but also as an opportunity for them to get insights from, external counsels that they perhaps never met before. So that's the kind of thing that we're developing. And then, of course, the meetings that happen, between counterparts, in small groups, that's something that is going to be fully available. Peg, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, because Peg is, responsible for everything that is networking related. Perhaps just before, giving you the floor, Peg, one thing I really would like to stress is when we decided to choose a certain partner, we spent a lot of time working on networking. And I would say all the vendors that are developing virtual content were in general pretty good at education, but they were poor at networking. And until we didn't find the right partner to have a good networking offering to our members, we were not happy. And ultimately, what we've decided is to build a kind of platform that is going to be our, foundation. And on top of that, we're integrating different solutions, different apps to make, that networking opportunity as strong as possible. Sorry, Peg.
No, thank you, Etienne. I think you shared most of the networking experiences, and I did want to let everyone know that we got a lot of feedback from members and staff on things that work that you really appreciate about our in-person meetings. And so we're exploring those with our vendor. And those things include tastings, meetups, wellness, and sports activities. We are exploring all those, and we ourselves have done a lot of testing, and I'm sure you have too, in this remote environment that we're all living in. We are experiencing these Zoom kind of social activities, and we're seeing what's successful and what works, and we're going to talk to our vendor about how we can implement those in an effective way so that you can network with each other and enjoy the experience.
And if I may, Ryan, just a quick additional comment that I forgot to mention. As some of you know, because you did participate, we recently had our first ever virtual conference, and that was the so-called New York conference. That was just a week ago. We had 250 participants into that conference, which, by the way, was not created, from scratch as a virtual conference. It was an in-person conference that we transformed into a virtual environment. Still, the networking there worked really well. Probably there wasn't enough of it. And I experienced myself, 2 networking sessions. And what I found very encouraging is that, the members were extremely engaged. And more importantly, after I think it was kind of 20, 25 minutes, we had to go back into the sessions, and people were kind of, looking at their watches and saying, it's already gone, come on, we need more time. So, and that's kind of, feedback that is very interesting to us so that we can develop, the right level of networking for annual and leadership meeting.
Sure. So just one more thing about networking. And as we know, INTA, plans a lot of stuff baseline with the meeting, but, anytime we go to an annual meeting city, there's obviously a lot of other activities that happen, care of firms or organizations that are hosting these things. Peg, I know we've seen fun runs and golf outings and, horseback riding, whatever the city offers. And a lot of times those are not planned specifically by INTA, but they're kind of in that INTA bubble. For folks who might be thinking about that, what should they be considering as it relates to scheduling with or against the annual meeting events and trying to put on some of those events in the virtual space, again, inside that larger INTA bubble?
Sure. Those are really important parts of the INTA annual meeting and leadership meeting, and we want to hear from you. I know that we know of a few groups, and we've reached out to them already because we'd love to share whatever they're planning in and around our meeting on our platform in terms of photos or testimonials. So if anyone is interested, I know Chris is on the phone. We've reached out to him. He typically hosts a running club. We know that there's INTA, a women's golf club. If there are activities that you're involved in that you typically do at our meeting, please let me know. You can reach out to me directly. And again, we're happy to feature whatever you're hosting over our dates on our platform. So we encourage you to do that.
Great, thanks, Peg. We're still getting some questions about, networking. So Etienne, maybe you can talk to us a little bit more about what we're envisioning with regards to kind of the networking apps and tools that we're going to be using. Is this going to have to be pre-scheduled, and are we just going to be bumping into the people that we know, or is there going to be some sort of AI, artificial intelligence level that will still allow you to serendipitously meet new people and expand your network while at this meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing as well some of, the written comments we're getting, virtual wine tasting. Yes, absolutely. And beer tasting as well, by the way. But yeah, it's going to be a combination of, different apps. So, the one-to-one AI empowered, as I explained before, it's, by the way, it's something that is quite funny. It comes from the dating industry. And basically here, what we're going to do is when you get into your profile, you'll define your preferences, and based on that, the app will be able to match you with people who have similar preferences. And again, you'll have to sign in for that, because if you're not interested, you won't get bothered by that. But if you sign in, then you're going to get some, suggestions. And from there, you're going to be able to say, all right, I'm going to move a step further, email exchange, or a step further, face-to-face meeting. Basically, this has nothing different from LinkedIn. When you're getting an invitation from someone and you accept or decline it and you decide to go further. But on top of that, there's going to be group networking that is going to be able to happen. We're looking into different apps. I think, if I remember correctly, one is called Lunch Pool. And it's kind of, creating small groups where people can, be together and interact together. We're going to provide that as well. So basically, it's going to be a combination. I see a question from Ian. It's going to be a combination of kind of, structured networking with non-structured networking, because again, we're trying to provide as much flexibility, as much freedom as possible, both in terms of, the education content, but also in terms of the networking. Scotch tasting. All right, we'll look into that. Peg, more work for us.
It's escalating from the tasting point of view. Since we're talking about networking, one of the staples we have is speed networking. How does speed networking work in the virtual space?
Absolutely. Peg, would you like to take this one?
Sure. We've been doing it for the past couple months since April. We have a moderator and 12 participants come into a Zoom room. There are several warm-up, icebreaker questions to get the group ready. And then they each go around and they get to give their elevator pitch for 2 to 3 minutes. They can't go over. A buzzer is alerted if they start to go over their allocated time. And then there's final questions where it's kind of, they're fun questions. It's asking people, what they've been doing in quarantine and working remotely. Again, just to kind of create that camaraderie among the group that's been together for over an hour. And then as once the call is over, all the information is circulated so that they can meet offline on their own, possibly make an appointment to meet each other in person at a future INTA event. And the feedback we have gotten and received from the members has been phenomenal. Every speed networking session, we see feedback from our members, and they're all very pleased with the experience and the contacts that they've made in this time period. So we're expecting it to work very similarly for the AM and the leadership meeting. Again, 12 participants in a room, meeting each other, exchanging fun stories and a little bit about them and their work capacity.
Great, thanks. Couple other questions. I'm kind of digging backwards and making sure I didn't miss too much or trying to lump some together. Seem to be some more questions about, the time zone of things, the scheduling. Talk to us, Etienne, a little bit about the process of scheduling committee meetings. Is this something that committee chairs and vice chairs are responsible for? Is it a staff liaison thing, internal, external? How do we get those things on the books? And again, even spreading it to educational sessions to best accommodate kind of the broad time zone issue that we face?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. So let me talk a little more about time zones, and then we'll come about the issue of committee meetings. So, in terms of time zones, we're trying to accommodate as many members as possible. And us being a global organization, that's not that easy. So when you look at, timing around the world and the clock around the world, let's imagine that, we were to start East daytime at 9:30, which is finally what we kind of decided. That means that it's 6:30 a.m. Pacific Coast, it's 3:30 p.m. Europe, it's 5:30 p.m. Dubai, it's 7 p.m. Delhi, it's 9:30 p.m. Beijing, and it's 11 p.m. Australia. So that is, as far as we can go. And when we looked into that, we thought that that was probably the best scenario for, a kind of, global live sessions, understanding that, it might be a little early for some people to, wake up at 6, and it might be a little late for some people to get into the platform at 11. However, bear in mind once again that, this is about live educational sessions. Networking is going to be happening at different time slots, that are compatible with all time zones, and all content is available on demand. So I think that's the first point that is important to mention. And on top of that, there's going to be 2 days where we're going to be on Asian times. The day that is going to be dedicated to China on Wednesday, on top of the global programming, and the day that is going to be dedicated to the Asia time zone on top of, the global time zone. So I think that's something that needs to be reminded to everyone. Now, in terms of the committees, again, I think it's something that you should be discussing with your staff liaison. The idea is that the committee meetings need to take place on those 3 days that we have defined, so 10th, 11th, and 12th. Now, in terms of the timing of the committee, it will very much depend on the majority of the members of the committee, so that you can have as many as possible joining. And that's something that, you know, I would encourage that you discuss with your staff liaison and you see what is the best option.
Great. So question about, you know, since we have the committee groups on the line, it's inevitable that with all the committees, subcommittees, project teams, you name it, that there's probably going to be a discussion or a work stream that involves a special guest who needs to be special invited and may not really be here to join the whole meeting. It's really just meant to be a part of a discussion at a committee meeting. In those unique circumstances, can INTA help accommodate that so that the committee can leverage that, you know, committee time to have the discussions they need?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it will be under kind of very exceptional circumstances, but let me say, for example, that we see quite often, you know, officials participating to some committee meetings as, you know, guests. That is definitely going to happen. And in fact, we're going to open even more the participation to IP offices. I know, for example, we've already secured that, you know, the incoming Director General of WIPO, Darren Tang, will be at our opening ceremonies as a kind of keynote speaker. We had a very nice conversation, long conversation yesterday with him as part of the planning committee looking into the next strategic plan. We've also secured Andre Yanku, who will be at a probably half an hour interview with, you know, our members, and that might be a limited attendance session. We're going to have the director of the UIPO, and we might have, you know, several directors from, you know, major IP offices from different regions. So that's something that's definitely going to happen. And then on top of that, you know, there's going to be the possibility to invite some of these people to the committee meetings. But in most of the cases, they will probably be registered and be part of the meeting because we're extending our invitation to IP offices, just to give an example. And that applies, of course, to judges and to those who play a relevant role for our daily work as companies or firms.
Great, thanks. Another question about networking and social, and you know, Peg may have sort of answered this, but I do just want to ask the question as it's been explicitly asked. So will there be an opportunity for me to host a virtual private reception?
Peg?
Sure. I think that there's a couple of different ways to do this. In the past, we have had plan your own events, and we have gone out to members that have done their own events and their around our annual meeting, and have asked them to kind of feature them on our platform, so that there's that opportunity. There's also the opportunity to have a reception if you do take advantage of a corporate hospitality, or if associate members take advantage of our hospitality suites. You can do a meeting, reception, happy hour in those spaces as well. I think what's going to happen is we are going to turn it over to you. We'll give you the meeting space and allow you to control your invitations and allow you to control your schedule. So for example, you'll get that secure environment, and then you can have people coming and going out of your room as you please. And it will be at your discretion to decide if it is a meeting or if it's something more social. And the only thing I think we would ask is that because it's in our platform, that the people that you're inviting do need to be registered guests or registered attendees to the meeting in order to access the meeting or the social activity.
Great, thanks, Peg. Chats have slowed down a little bit, and you know, we're just about 10 more minutes to the hour, so want to be sensitive to everyone's time here. Maybe one more question, unless any others come in, Etienne, is you know, it boils back down to the initial decision. You know, am I going to register? Am I going to see value in this meeting? And that cost justification is the big kicker here. There's a difference in price this year. There's a lot of logistics that you don't have to consider for a virtual meeting. And I think you've shown in a couple other presentations some very interesting sort of data points of the cost versus an in-person meeting. If you could just kind of lay that out, because again, I think with the committee leaders on this call, it helps for them to trickle that information down, because they're going to be asked, their committee members are going to be asking this question. So talk to us about the cost, how to justify that cost, especially as it's related to past meetings where you were in person in a hotel in a different city.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of, you know, going to repeat somehow, you know, what I mentioned before. the platform is going to be, live for 10 days at a flat fee of $750. So that means, $75 per day. And just as a reminder, last year, a single table topic was $50. So that's something that you should probably bear in mind. In terms of, pricing, it's between 30 to 60% less than annual alone or annual and leadership meeting together. You also have the packages. But I would say more important than all of that is, yes, we do understand that it's a difficult year. I mean, when we surveyed our corporate members, 70% of them said they had budget constraints. And 80% of them said that, even if they were able to travel, based on, governments, there is, for 80% of them, attendance in person to the annual meeting was non-essential travel this year. But at the same time, a very large majority mentioned that they wanted to have a gathering together. And this is why we decided to keep the meeting. Now, what will make this meeting different than, prior meetings is that, of course, it's going to be a different experience, but you're going to have education, you're going to have networking, you're going to have a virtual hall. We do expect a very significant participation to the meeting. And probably one thing that is really worth it is that in the past, you've not been able to attend the educational sessions. And this time, you might not be able to attend them live, but you're gonna definitely be able to access that content afterwards. I think that's a great opportunity. Then let me talk perhaps about an additional thing. I've mentioned that in several town halls. This technology has come to stay. And we do not envisage, or we do hope that, next year we'll be able to go back to an in-person meeting. But even if that's the case, we'll probably go into more a kind of hybrid offering where 80% of our meeting might be in person, but there might be a 20% that might go virtual. And it might very well be that in the future, we do more virtual conferences. Just an example from now, probably 5-6 weeks ago, we organized a discussion on anti-counterfeiting in Asia, and we invited corporate members. We've done that similarly at in-person meetings, at annual and leadership meeting. I have never seen 50 corporations attending such a meeting in person. When we did that virtually, we had 50 corporations from Asia participating. That's what's going to change with the virtual environment. And sometimes, we've all faced that situation where, we were planning to come to the annual meeting and at the very last minute, we're not able to do it. And we missed the annual meeting. From now on, this is not going to happen anymore. So we do think there is really a great opportunity into that. We're also working very strongly in terms of, what's going to be the educational component of the meeting and particularly how to advance your career. Part of that is, navigating the virtual environment. We've very recently seen how the Supreme Court had a virtual hearing. That's going to happen more and more. So that basically means that we'll have hearings being virtual. We're going to have networking being virtual more and more. There is no better way than start doing that as soon as possible to get used to this technology.
Great. Just a couple quick hits are coming in. I do want to ask a question here, and then Peter, I see your question here. I'll follow up with that. The first question I have is just about registration and sort of that extra level of participation as a speaker or something like that. Are there incentives for those who might be speaking to get discounted registrations, or are there any considerations in that ballpark?
We're organizing it the same way we've done in the past. So we don't make a difference whether this is a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting in the past. And in terms of, the fee, it's a kind of flat fee that, applies to everyone the same way.
Great. And I see your note, Amanda, but I'm just going to pivot here. I do want to ask Peter's question. So really kind of a security and permissions question. Surely people will register at least one person, but what means are in place to ensure that, multiple people can't access the platform with one registration?
So Ryan, you're the tech person. You're the one who needs to answer that question.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, simply put, the platform helps us with the heavy lifting there. No single user can be participating in 2 concurrent sessions. There will be kind of strict security and limitations on that. Now, having said that, you know, we need help governing all the committee meetings, so staff liaisons and committee chairs and such. We'll need to just keep an eye that the people that are supposed to be in these meetings in November are there. Of course, if social distancing is no longer a thing by the time, and one person has their meeting up on the screen and 10 people are sitting in a room with them, that's a challenge that we really can't overcome in the virtual space, but we have some great members who we think will not do that. But, you know, broadly speaking, you know, Peter, you asked the question, if Peter registered, I can't use that concurrently when Peter is using it. So we're also going to be looking very, very closely at the analytics too. That will help answer some of those questions. Frankly speaking, the vendor that we are using, we're not just using a platform, we're also using a service provider who has actually been doing virtual meetings for, you know, 15, 20 years at this point. So virtual meetings are the hot thing right now, and a lot of people are trying to dive in. So we're very happy that we're working with a partner who's actually going to help guide us, not just with this meeting, but our future hybrid meetings and perhaps even some new wrinkles in our in-person meetings. So going to be something we're really going to be looking at, and we're going to be asking that in certain pockets. The staff liaisons help govern that as well for those offline meetings, but the system does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. I hope that answers that. Facial recognition software, we will work on that. We'll see what we can do. There was a question, just a broad, you know, capacity question. You know, how big could this meeting be? You know, is there a limit on the size of the annual meeting? And maybe Etienne, if you could just give an insight of what we're hoping for, what we're hoping to see at this first, you know, huge annual leadership meeting from a registration headcount point of view.
Well, I mean, I'm very happy to, you know, take that question, but I have the feeling that Hube's question was more about the capacity of, you know, the different, you know, sessions.
Sure.
And I think, you know, there are going to be sessions where, you know, the capacity is going to be kind of unlimited. And, you know, there's going to be sessions where the capacity might be limited. And that's going to be our decision because, as I said before, you know, in a town hall or in a kind of interview, we might not want to have more than 200 people live. Now, in terms of the capacity of the platform, you know, the capacity of the platform is huge. It could go up to 50,000 people. I don't think we're going to get 50,000 registrants, by the way. That would be really nice, but I don't think we're going to get there. Now, what do we expect in terms of attendance to the meeting? I think, you know, we're looking into different scenarios, but we're quite positive about attendance. And, you know, there is one trend that is very clear, and it's, you know, corporations. And when talking to corporations, I would say 95% of the corporations we've been talking to will be bringing and registering to the meeting at least the same number of people as in prior years for in-person meetings. And in fact, a big majority of those corporations are taking advantage of the fact that there is no travel, no accommodation, that there are packages. You know, just yesterday, I got another, you know, major US corporation who sent me an email and said, normally we would be bringing 3 people. You know, I'm a past president. I'm going to bring 3 people. I'm going to be attending myself. I'm going to take advantage of the package. We're going to be 5 in total. That's a trend that we're seeing with quite many corporations. Some of them are bringing more paralegals than before because we're not having a trademark administrators meeting. One corporation that normally brings 2 people is going to be bringing 10 people to the meeting this year. So in terms of participation, we do expect a very significant participation into the meeting.
Great. Lots of positive comments. So thank you everyone who has submitted something. Maybe just one other comment question. I see Dave submitted about the calendar functionality, and obviously with any INTA meeting, schedule is everything so that you're in the right place at the right time, or at least within 15 minutes or so. Yeah, the simple answer, Dave, is, you know, as we work with our vendor, which we've just secured, and part of that will be the strategy of communicating everything. You know, the simple thing is most of this meeting is kind of all you can eat. You know, there's a few things that are just, you know, separate, but, you know, you have access to this meeting. You can kind of pick and choose in the platform closer to the meeting, a little further out. We expect that in the virtual environment, planning comes a little closer to the event since that physical space is not needed. But that's going to be one of the things we're going to hit early with the vendor, is just understanding the best approach to communicating and helping each of you calendarize where you need to be, what takes priority, what you have access to, what you don't have access to. So Dave, I'll make sure that that's a priority as we start to engage with this vendor, but we're confident that they can help guide us there.
Yeah, and again, Ryan, if I may, please bear in mind that, we're still at the early phases of, putting everything together, but there is much more to come in terms of networking, in terms of, educational sessions, everything that is going to go on demand. There is plenty that is happening in terms of securing speakers, keynote speakers. Like with every other, annual meeting, it's going little by little. We still have time to, to do a great, meeting, and that's exactly what we're working on.
Great, so no more questions coming in. I think we're just a minute or two over time. So with that, we will wrap up this town hall. Again, pleasure seeing all those familiar faces and some new faces. Really happy to see everybody still engaged in these crazy times. The high level of interest for our annual leadership meeting. And we hope we've at least provided you with a little bit more information about what this thing is going to be and how you can help champion that on your committees and subcommittees. And of course, the INTA staff and Etienne remain available if other questions come up, other comments, questions, or concerns. But we really look forward to seeing everybody registering for the meeting once those dates open up. And we are very excited for what's to come in November. We really think it's going to be a game changer for everybody at INTA. And again, thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend for those in the US. Otherwise, have a great weekend across the globe. And we look forward to talking to you all soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Take care and stay healthy.